Hey, what's going on, guys? Patasaur here. Welcome to another video. And I am late to the party, guys. I am so sorry for this. But today we're going to do the balance patch review 2 days later after the balance patch came out. So I did read the balance patch when it did come out. So I already read through all of them. And we're not going to go through every single one. But anything I have some kind of input into, I will definitely share my thoughts on that, right? Alright, the first one, Water Pioneer Mountains Power. So this is the second skill of Wusa and Nigong. Now, the reason why this was so strong was it was true damage. What that means, it's not affected by like attack reduction. It's like pretty much ignore defense, and it's fixed damage. It's always the same. You cannot reduce this unless there's decay. So decay is when you go into the game really long and then your HP is reduced, and that's the only way this would be reduced in damage. Otherwise, early game, like turn 1, turn 2, this thing does max damage. And it's so strong because the way you build Wusa is you don't have to invest in any attack, even start gemming in flat HP onto your runes as well, given that like they have like triple speed rolls and stuff like that as well. And this would like maximize your damage, and you could also run like a HP lead, like a Molong lead or a Carnal lead to boost this up as well. So the reason why this was so strong is Wusa as a unit itself, for a first pick in the draft, it doesn't give anything away. So when someone first picks Wusa, you still don't know what they're going. They could go into a Nana, they can go into a Riley Ragdoll, they can go into a Gani Hathor. Like if you watch my previous stream where I did my wings, where I picked Wusa and I went into Gani Hathor, people didn't expect that. That's why it was so strong. Like no one expects like a Wusa Hagang Verd and then last two pick Gani Hathor. That's why it was so easy to win all those games, because just like throwing out units, like showing your hand towards the end when they can't do anything, when they only have like 1 or 2 picks to counteract your comp, is really strong. So let's say for instance here, someone first picks Wusa, okay? I don't know what to do. In my head, I'm like, okay, I need to probably bring some win units and some AoE strippers or some sort of strippers. So I'm going to bring a Diana, and I'm going to bring maybe a Carnal because they might use it. So I'm going to take that. I'm going to take the Carnal from them, and I'm going to pick a Diana, right? And then they could go like Riley Ragdoll, or like they can go Gani Hathor, right? So when they go Gani Hathor, I'm pretty much screwed because Diana doesn't do too well against Gani Hathor because it just gets reset. Diana does have low cooldowns, but because of the attack bar reduction and how much turns he's getting, because of the Hathor and because of the Seal Magic, and maybe if you run a Vert as well like I did, you're just going to get infinite turns and you're just going to beat any Diana comp, right? So you could also think like, okay, this person has a Wusa, oh, I might take a Molong to deny his pick, but then if he goes Gani Hathor, then you're kind of screwed, right? You could also go into like a Nana Daphnis comp or a Sierra Molong comp, right? So let's say if you try to take their units, or like you play like on the slower side, if they go Sierra Molong, you're gonna get comboed because Sierra Bomb into Reckless into this true damage Mountains Power, this can just combo with Reckless alone. So if they have all 3 and a lead to outspeed you, you can't do anything about it, and you lose a unit right off the bat. And if they have a Nana, they can just snowball from there because they gain a stack as well. So that's why Wusa was really strong. Let's say if a Wusa does like 12k initially pre-patch, right? Then they're gonna do like 9k because they're gonna do 25% less than before, because like 20% equals to 12k, 15% equals to 9k, 25% less. So that's a significant decrease. And if you talk about in terms of RTA, the potential to like S2 Wusa into Molong Reckless would be a lot weaker than before. A lot weaker. I still think he's gonna be like picked like after the patch drops, but I don't think it'll be as often as it is now, because right now his pick rate is like 78% plus. Like he's like picked almost every game, and I think the only games that he isn't picked is if someone's running like a turn 1 comp, like a Ryu Charlotte CP, or some kind of like cleave with the Dark Kaki. So I think that's the only two like play styles that people won't pick Wusa. Okay, the next one, Light Monkey nerf. 50% attack bar reduction to 30%. Now, I think that's fair because what makes this unit really strong is actually the slow debuff. And if they got rid of slow debuff, I think it would have like made it so like it would have dropped the win rate of this monkey by 2% at least. It's basically a Hathor itself with a slow and a stun, and it can gain attack bar. It can gain attack bar with the stun if it stuns units. So it's a Hathor that can cycle itself with a slow. So that's why he's so strong. And you could use this in like any kind of team where Hathor, it's like when you sleep everyone, you can't really AoE as well. And also the fact that this doesn't glance unless it has glancing on the unit, or like, you know, if there's a Fire Ryu or a Molly or something as well. Sea Emperors. This one transfers 1 harmful effect on the for the S1 to 2 harmful effects to your enemy. So on the first turn, let's say if your Gianna outspeeds you, you don't really have to have your Sea Emperor on will now. You just need to outspeed most of their units and stay behind the Gianna. Because if the Gianna puts a bomb on you, you can pass it back. Most likely, the Gianna won't even try to bomb after this buff, to be honest, because it's just gonna get passed back. I mean, it could bomb. Let's say if you have Oki or Trident, it could bomb only to prevent you from using the S3. It would force you to use the S1. The effect added, the attack will land with the attribute advantage when attacking the enemy while having 5 knowledge. So when it has 5 stacks, it gains attribute advantage. What that means, it gains additional 15 crit. It doesn't say here, but that's what attribute advantage means. Every time you hit a unit with attribute advantage, like let's say fire on wind or like water on fire, you're gaining 15 crit, and you're dealing a bit more damage as well. So when it has 5 stacks, it can do that. So people, me for instance, I run a 67 crit Lightning Emperor in Siege offense, and only because I use a 33 lead. So I bring this comp into like slower comps that don't have a lead on defense, and then I'll just like take out a unit with the using my Bethany, and then I'll gain a stack, and then I'll take out a unit using the the Lightning Emperor Odin, right? Now that this has attribute advantage, you could effectively nerf your own Odin down by 15 crit, knowing that you get 5 stacks and you gain this attribute advantage now. So it's even easier to rune now. Like let's say if you weren't tuned before, or like you were lacking damage before, you could put more stats into damage and stuff like that. Not only that, on defense, you can run this at 85 crit with like a Bastet and either Tessarian or Commune. And this becomes really strong now because the AI, when it has attribute advantage, it can target any kind of unit. It will most likely target units with defense break on them already, but it's pretty much random now when he has 5 stacks, because he in the past people would bring like arenas to tank the Odin with minus wind damage, and you would never lose because the Odin will just like forever attack the arena. But now it could attack anything, so that's what makes it scary now on defense. So I think that's a pretty good buff in my opinion. We're not going to talk about these because I have like little to no input. So removes 1 harmful effect if you receive the enemy if you receive the enemy's attack that lands. Man, this wording is like, is this even English? Is this real life right now? Attack that lands as a glancing hit. Okay, so every time you're stunned or frozen, stunned or frozen, if you get glanced, then it automatically cleanses Ryu. So let's say for instance you have attack debuff on you, and you get glanced, that automatically gets cleansed. So that's huge because this passive actually relies on its attack power. So when you have a high enough attack power, you're always going to counter. But if your attack broken, sometimes you don't counter against certain things because you had that reduction in attack. And also, let's say if you're stunned, and I usually beat a lot of fire Ryus because towards the end, my Juno just like cycles so fast and stuns the Ryu so much that it just dies to my Juno. I can just kill it and stun it to death. Like once I stun it, I just kill it because I take like 3 turns before it even procs out of the stun. This is going to be really obnoxious because it seems really annoying to deal with. I don't think much things can deal with this. And you could make the argument that, oh, you can bring Gianna bombs, you can bring like Molong, you can bring like Wusa to kill it, you can bring like Sierra bombs to kill it. The thing about Ryu is when you draft Fire Ryu, you're not going to draft it into those units. You're going to draft it where your benefit. That's why people run like around 70 speed, because they're not drafting this unit into like a fast like Oki team or something like that stuns you, or like a fast monkey team or something. They're drafting this into like 3 win, 2 win, and they can't hard CC this, right? But now with this buff, when people glance on you, you're gonna pop out of that stun. You're gonna pop out of that freeze. There's not much freeze units, but you're gonna pop out of the stun, like the Kano stun, the Juno stun. Maybe Oki, like Oki's not that good anymore, but maybe Oki. Yeah. Okay. So next one, Light Ryu. Okay, so you guys are probably waiting for this. Right? So I don't know if you guys know, but I do have the Light Ryu, and maybe you're waiting for my input on this. Damage increased by approximately 6%. Okay, so in the last patch, or like the previous patch with the Light Ryu, the S2 did get nerfed, and it's understandable because, it wasn't understandable because I didn't think Water Ryu deserved like a strip nerf, to be honest, like an activation on the strip nerf. Light Ryu also received that nerf because of the Water Ryu, and instead it got like I think a 6 to 8% damage boost on the S3, and now it gets a 6% boost. Okay, so the thing about this unit is you have to look at it as a cleaving unit, an AoE damage unit. Okay, so being that it's an AoE damage unit, you have to compare it to the other ones, right? So let's look at the other ones that are actually really, really good. And if you look at the Dark Kaki, I forget his name. I don't even know how to pronounce his name, to be honest. But if you look at the Dark Kaki, right, he has a passive where he can pop himself out of like inability effects, right? That itself is so good already, right? Ryu doesn't have anything like that. And you can make the argument that Ryu's AoE has attack buff, okay? But the thing about this attack buff is, even with this attack buff, it still does less than the Dark Kaki's S2 AoE. It actually does less. And the thing is, now, because Light Ryu has attack buff, its damage is capped to that because of that attack buff, right? And if you look at the Dark Kaki, he doesn't have attack buff. That means he can increase his own damage even further with an attack buff. So having an attack buff doesn't mean your unit is better, right? It actually means it's worse, right? And the fact that it's not even ignore defense, this skill, it's ignore damage reduction effects, which doesn't even include the Wind Monkey. It doesn't include the Tessarion passive mitigation. It doesn't include them. It only includes defense buff, anti-crit buff, and invincibility. That's what it includes. So this unit is so bad that this 6% buff, like, look how much times they had to buff the fire demon, and he's just okay, right? This unit is just, even if it got like a 30% boost, right? I mean, 30% damage boost would be good, but he's still gonna be weaker in every way compared to the Dark Khaki, right? So unless they make this unit as good as that unit, I don't think I'll ever use a cleave unit. And you know, I'm not bashing on like the way I mean, I am bashing on the way how this is like a lazy buff, to be honest. Like, they could have like made it like add more effects to the skills that's gonna help this unit. You know, not add minor damage buffs, because that's not gonna change anything. Okay, the surfers are next, guys, and I'm not gonna go through them because I did test this windsurfer pre-patch without skill ups, and I think it might actually be sort of useful, especially since it did gain a 33 lead as well. But it's hard for me to say because first of all, it's not skilled up, and second of all, this patch has to drop because he's gained 2 things, and I don't know if that would affect how well he would do unless I test it myself. So I can't say for these surfers, to be honest. Okay, we're not gonna go through this wind one. This Justice Strike on Josephine. I think the stun chance is like probably at 75% now. I'm not too sure about that. But I don't think this is the way to make Josephine better, to be honest. Like, it is annoying because this skill can't glance. So she can hit wind and try to stun those units. But the problem with Josephine right now is that CP is pretty common in RTA, in those control comps. CP and Charlotte. And CP, like, you can even argue like Gani is pretty, like, it's usable as well. So like, once Josephine gets reset, she pretty much does nothing. And the way you run Josephine is like, you normally put her on like a 120, like a plus 120 set or 130 set. You know, you don't give like a crazy like plus, you know, 170 set to Josephine unless you're cracked out on like efficiency, because you do want attack as well. You want attack and you want crit and crit damage as well, so she can actually deal damage to people, right? And I don't think this is going to change that, because CP is just going to reset her. And like, people in the past, like, Josephine kind of looked good on paper against Gianna, because once Gianna stuns, you can shield your own team. But the problem is that once Gianna stuns your whole team, they just, your whole team can't do anything. And just because this moves and gives you a shield isn't gonna stop their other units from killing your whole team, right? Let's say, you know, Gianna goes first and puts a bomb on someone, like maybe doesn't even bomb and just like S3s, right? You proc can get the shield, but the rest of the units are stunned. So like, what can you do? And then you just get reset by CP, you get like controlled, you get attack by reduction, you get pushback. Like, you can't do anything. So I don't think this is the way to like make her better, to be honest. Like, if like, I'm pretty sure this was RTA focused, this buff. So I don't think this was the buff for her. It could make her obnoxious, but this wasn't the buff, in my opinion. Okay, so the Barber Kings did get this new Berserk effect, where their max HP is decreased by 30%, but the damage that they deal is doubled. So keep in mind, this says damage dealt to enemies increased by 100%. That means it's times 2 damage. It doesn't mean your attack is increased by 100%. So it's not like an attack buff. It's damage dealt. Just like how Chun-Li receives 300% damage when she reaches a certain speed threshold, this also gains. So Chun-Li would get triple damage because it's 200% increase. Okay, so this will get double damage. Okay, attack speed also is increased by 20%, and HP is recovered by 10% of the damage dealt. That means if you deal, so there's a built-in vamp. So if you deal more damage, you actually recover more. But the problem is, I don't think it's a problem, but due to this addition, they lose the attack speed buff and the recovery per turn when the skill is on cooldown. So these Barbaric Kings, I don't know if it will change anything until I test it myself. So we have to wait and see for that. Okay. We're gonna go down here. Extortion. For Arnold. Resets extortion skill cooldown time when an enemy dies. So the thing about this is, you don't have to kill a unit. It's just every time an enemy dies, this thing gets reset. So you can infinitely use this as long as you keep killing. So this could be like pretty decent, but we still have to test it, see how it is. Because it says attack, I'm thinking that it has to be dealing damage to everyone. It can't be like a Ganymede attack bar reduction, because that only hits that single target, right? So I think it has to actually deal damage to everyone for it to not reduce the effect of threat. So, but I think the problem with this skill is that it can be stripped. That's the problem. So I think that's it for the balance patch, to be honest, because there's nothing else that I could really put input without testing how the unit is itself. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and if you guys want to see more, just subscribe, like, and post a comment if you want, and I'll see you guys next time.